Hello, and welcome back to the Kratom Sobriety podcast. I am one of your hosts, Nolan, and today I wanted to introduce episode 137 with a wonderful guest, Kevin, who will be sharing his story about quitting Kratom kava-tonics. On another note, just today, quickly, I wanted to touch on a quote that I know floats around addiction recovery communities quite a bit, and I wanted to adapt it to Kratom quitters. And that would be, sobriety isn't the absence of kratom, it's the presence of a new kind of life. And the reason I wanted to bring this up is because when we decide to quit kratom, the feeling that we're about to be going without something can generate a lot of fear that's counterproductive to what we're trying to do, which is get off of kratom. And I know that for me, and maybe for all of you, the thought that we are committing instead to a new kind of life, one in which we seek happiness and fulfillment and organic well-being, is much more promising and uplifting than the thought of being without something that we thought was making us happy. Anyway, I wanted to share that with you all because I know that quitting can involve a lot of fear and self-doubt. And I think that whatever we can do to foster a sense of pride in quitting and confidence and bravery, the better a chance we have of getting this stuff out of our lives for now and forever. Anyway, thank you so much for listening in. As always, please reach out to us if you would like to be a guest on the show and you would like to share your story. That would be kratomsobriety@gmail.com. Anyway, I have been Nolan, and I hope you enjoy our interview with Kevin, and we will see you next time, Kratom Quitters.
Welcome to the Kratom Sobriety podcast. This is Jacob, and this evening I have the pleasure of talking to Kevin. Kevin, how are you doing this evening, man?
I'm doing great, Jacob. Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for coming on. Kevin, how would you like to introduce yourself?
My name is Kevin. I am 37 years old. I live in Michigan, the Metro Detroit area. I have 2 brothers, 3 sisters. I'm the second youngest of 6 in my family, and I drive a truck and move boxes for a living.
Awesome. That's great. I went to Detroit last Memorial Day for the first time in a long time, and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, Detroit's actually coming back. It's real nice there these days.
Yeah, it's a lot more affordable than where I live, which is cool too. What do you like to do for fun, or what hobbies do you have out there?
I'm still in the process of rediscovering what I enjoy since being sober, but I play poker. I'm into trivia, puzzles, video games. I've been reading a lot lately, and I'm just looking forward to some warmer weather so I can get outside and be more active.
Nice. I got to get back more into reading. I was really good at long form reading for a while, and then I got sucked into stupid articles and crap. Anyway, this isn't about me, so let's chat a little bit about you. This is obviously a Kratom Sobriety podcast, so you found yourself in that little pickle, as many of us did. When was your Kratom abstinence date?
I've been clean from not just kratom, but all substances since January 1st of this year, 2025.
Okay, January 1st, 2025. So it's, March. So that's 2 or 3 months. That's great, man.
Yeah, about 95 days, if I'm not mistaken.
95 days. Yeah, definitely 3 months, more than 3 months. That's awesome. Great job, man. I'm glad that you've got that progress going on. So before we jump into the kratom stuff specifically, did you have a history of other addiction?
Nicotine was probably my first real addiction, but I've had a long history of struggles with alcohol, cocaine, Ambien, Adderall. Truthfully, I've tried more drugs than I care to even mention. If I didn't develop an addiction to it, it's probably just because I didn't have reliable access.
I can relate to that a lot. When did you first encounter kratom, and when did you first try it?
I was first introduced to kratom in probably 2017, give or take. My girlfriend at the time was really into holistic medicines. And she came home one day talking about this new miracle plant. It's supposed to be good for pain, depression, anxiety, just everything under the sun. We've all heard that story. But we went out and we bought some capsules. She took to it immediately, just loved it right from the jump. I was a little more skeptical. I tried it a handful of times, and I remember thinking maybe I felt a little something, but to me, I thought it was more of a placebo than anything. But I tried it a few times, and then eventually once I got really nauseous and I threw up and I just set it down, told her, like, if it works for you, great, but this is just not for me. And I noticed it popping up everywhere over the years, just didn't really think about it. It wasn't until January of 2024 I discovered the little kratom kava shots, and that's where my problem with it started.
That's really interesting. In all these episodes of doing this, I don't think I've talked to anybody that's had a first experience where they were like, nah, this wasn't for me. And then 2017 to 2024, that's what, 7 years? That's a decent amount of time. What intrigued you to try the little kava-kratom drink?
I had heard about them on a podcast. I'd probably seen them in stores before, but it seemed like as soon as I heard that podcast, I started noticing them everywhere. And the very next day, I grabbed one and I tried it. And I don't know, I remember thinking $9, like that seems ridiculously expensive. Fuck it, let's give it a go. And I don't know if I felt an intense euphoria the first time I tried it, but I remember specifically that day just having a great day at work. I was focused and efficient and personable. Like I was delivering to almost exclusively businesses, and I deal with a lot of people. And I was just quick-witted and on point with all the conversations, which is not a character for me. I'm generally a fairly introverted person.
Okay. So it basically brought you out of your shell, so to say.
Absolutely, yeah.
All right. How did your usage progress from there?
It was probably another week or two before I ever bought another one. I had a hard time getting over the price tag at first. But one day I knew I had a rough day of work ahead of me, so I went and bought another one. And the same thing happened. It just had a fantastic day. I didn't notice it at the time, but I think that's when the addict switch flipped in my brain, and it just became a thing of, yup, I do this now. I had one every day after that. I couldn't tell you when one a day turned into two, but it seemed seemingly overnight. I was at 4 or 5, and it just kept spiraling from there.
Okay. Were you also, you mentioned you got sober from everything back in January. Were you also using other substances and as well with the kratom?
So I was actually sober from alcohol from 2017 until New Year's of 23. Alcohol was always the most destructive thing to my life, but I was in the midst of a relapse on that when I discovered these.
All right. So yeah, you have definitely a really fast trajectory, because you said you started in early 2024 and quit in early 2025. So that's like a year of usage, and that this was a problem.
It's tough to really pinpoint that. I think I noticed early on it was becoming a problem. The financial impact is tough to ignore, but
Yeah.
I don't know. I just dismissed it. Like I found something I liked and I was just rolling with it. What really started to make me notice that it was a problem is I actually quit drinking again in August of last year. And quit drinking in August of last year. And it was almost like I caught a second wind with those things. Like they had long since stopped working like they used to. They still worked, but the effects didn't last as long. I was starting to notice more negatives with everything. I might have blamed them on other things. But yeah, once I quit drinking, it seemed like I was right back to where I was. Everything was great again with them. And
Interesting.
yeah, so that continued at that point is when my use of them really spiraled. I went there to about 7 to as many as 10 a lot of days.
Were you having
Yes.
any side effects or any sort of problems as your usage ramped up, or was it just continuing to give you that feeling that you were chasing?
No, that feeling did not last.
It never does.
I had definitely started noticing side effects. I think in my head at the time, I was blaming them on other outside factors, but I was becoming like increasingly manic almost. I wasn't really ever happy anymore. I wasn't having good days. I was just having some that weren't so bad. The only real emotions I seemed to be feeling were like anger and sadness.
Yeah, you're completely and totally numbed out, and then when you're not numbed out enough, you're either super depressed or angry for some reason at someone that doesn't deserve it.
And that was the thing. Honestly, I had thoughts at times of they just made me feel empty inside. But at the time, that's almost what I was going for at that point. Like that feeling was better than what I was feeling when I was off of them. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know what you're saying. It's this, I don't know how to describe it. It's like this despair, but it's better than the despair of not having them, which is this utter, like, mental hell. I don't know. At what point in this timeline did you, like, say, "Oh shit, I gotta quit," and what did that look like?
It was multiple things towards the end there. It was like I said, I'd started noticing the negative things more. I really wasn't sleeping much. I was waking up around 3 or so every morning. I didn't really notice restless limbs or anything, but I would wake up almost every morning with this intense pain in my left shoulder.
Mm.
And it was a weird, like, pain, yet also a numbness. But it would be so bad, I would be in tears, like asking God or whoever, like, how do I make this stop? And I was really depressed most of the time. And I felt like my body was just breaking down. My skin was incredibly dry. It was mostly like my hands and the bottom of my feet, but also I remember there was one time at work I just brushed up against a cardboard box, barely even felt it until I looked down 2 minutes later and saw there was blood everywhere. It just sliced me right open.
Wow.
But it's like in your head, it's easy to blame that. So like the shoulder pain, I'm thinking, I'm just overworking myself at work. Or the dry skin, it's winter.
Yeah.
It's just the season.
Yeah, you look for those excuses and they all start to pile up.
You're right. And then towards the end there, yeah, my mind started wandering to darker places too. Like there were multiple days where I had probably had 8 or 10 of them, probably thrown up 2 or 3 times. And I remember having these thoughts of, I should just be drinking. It was
Yeah.
it's a lot cheaper to be a drunk. That was really when I started to accept it because alcohol was always the most destructive thing to my life. I knew that was a path I did not need to be going down again. And that was when I started connect the dots of, okay, something's going on here with this.
Yeah, I had the same thing. I remember distinctly I was like 3 or a couple years sober, and I was in a store, and I was, like, about to just go buy a bottle, and I was like, "If I do that, this is all gonna end very poorly." And
Yes.
that's when I also knew it was like, I have to whatever I have to do, I have to get off this shit 'cause
All right.
it's gonna make things go real bad here. Alright, were you able to quit for good the first time in January, or did you have to quit a couple times? What did that look like for you?
How it went down, I had the thoughts of stopping early plenty of times, but it was always due to financial reasons. And that just wasn't
Yeah.
enough to make it stick for me. But what ended up happening where I started formulating the plan was it was on Christmas Day when I couldn't get any because everything was closed.
Yeah.
I stayed at a buddy's house on Christmas Eve. I probably had 6 or 8 of them that day. I brought 4 up there with me. I had 1 left in the morning. I took it, but by midday, I was just feeling awful, just really restless, nauseous, and I just wanted to be anywhere but there.
Yeah.
Eventually, I ended up making up a lie and just left for dinner just to get the hell out of there. And I just went home. I remember I had this plan. I knew one specific gas station on the way home that was open and sold them, but I was messing around with Spotify and I missed my turn. GPS rerouted me. So I ended up taking a different way, never got any. And when I got home, laying in bed, and I had to work the next day, but I couldn't sleep. And as I'm laying there, it's probably 3 a.m, something just clicked in my head. Like I finally understood what restless leg syndrome was, and something clicked up. Oh my God, this is withdrawal. So
Yeah.
from there, I hopped on the internet, started researching. I found this subreddit for quitting this specific product, started reading all of these stories that were remarkably similar to mine. And once I had all the dots connected, I decided then and there, okay, we're not doing this anymore. But a couple hours later, it quickly became apparent that I'm not going to get through work without this. So
Yeah. Okay. So what did you do? How did you end up quitting and getting through? Did you take work off? Did you go see a doctor? Like, what did you?
I decided I was going to quit on the first. I had New Year's off. We weren't running. I didn't know how long it was going to last. I had a quite kind of an idea from the research I'd done, but I had to work the day after. I ended up calling in 2 days and then I was off the weekend. I went back to work on day 6.
Okay. Did you use any supplements or do anything to help with the withdrawals?
I didn't use any supplements. I do remember reading up on like the vitamin C protocol and everything, but the first line that I had read said something about starting it a couple of weeks in advance, and I had made it
Yep.
up in my mind like, no, I don't have time for that. I'm not waiting. So I just toughed through it without that.
Okay. Just another question to maybe take a step back into your history. Did you know much about kratom or kava or any of this when you started taking these and when you were started to look it up on the internet? Were you surprised by the subreddit or any of that?
I was very surprised by the subreddit. I have no
Okay.
knowledge of kava. I had no idea what that was. When I first started taking these, though, I did not know that it had kratom in it. It said it on the bottle, but I didn't read it. It probably wouldn't have stopped me just because of preconceived notions I had about it from earlier.
What was your kind of like worst withdrawal symptom if you had to pick one? I'm always curious.
The restless legs were very hard to deal with. That was
Yeah.
about 4 days straight of completely crawling out of my skin. I don't think I slept a single second until day 5.
I always had that same problem. It sucked.
I'd say the insomnia was probably the worst symptom though, because that actually seemed to continue for a while. It seemed to be about 2 months before my sleep really went back to normal. I might have been able to get 6 hours in a night, but it was always heavily interrupted.
Yeah, that I was an extract user and I relapsed a lot of times. And it wasn't usually the first week. The first week sucked. It was always the same thing you mentioned. The restless legs were always the one that always made my life hell. But I could do it. I got good at doing it. It was like the week 2, week 3, week 4, the depression and the lack of sleep just crushed me. What was your experience like at 2 weeks and then a month and then at 2 months and then where you are now?
2 weeks is when I think I started to hit a pink cloud. Like I said, I had gone back to work on day 6, and that week at work was rough. I don't think it was necessarily acutes anymore. I think it was just exhaustion and sleep deprivation. But
Probably,
I
yeah.
started to level out. And by week 2, things seemed to be going very well. I was in a good mood every day, but it did seem after about 3 weeks to a month, my mood was very up and down.
What are you doing to support yourself now in recovery and making sure that you can not only stay off kratom, as you said, alcohol's been very destructive. How are you handling that?
I'm just trying to live better for myself. I've gotten into yoga, meditation, that kind of stuff, just to keep your head clear. been fairly active in the quitting kratom recovery community. I go to the meetings quite often. Those definitely help out the chats and
Yeah, the quitting kratom meetings are really good. There's more than one, I think, almost every day now, and
yes, every day. Yep.
huge amount of people that are going there. I remember almost 2 years ago when I quit, there was hardly anything. So it's awesome how much that's grown.
When I started the WhatsApp chat, I believe there was like 220 people in it, and here we are at 3 months later, and there's almost 350 now.
Yeah, that's crazy. And only, like you said, only 3 months. Well, you haven't had any relapses. How are you doing with cravings and managing that and looking to prevent relapses and such?
Cravings have been okay. I had them a lot early on. Actually, one of the biggest struggles for me was my job took me inside and out of a lot of businesses. And I had my places where I would buy them, and I would
Hmm.
always buy multiple places just so, people wouldn't see
Yeah,
me buying so many every day. But I never really paid attention to how prevalent they were everywhere else. And during work, I was walking in front of them 15, 20 times every single day at work. That was the cravings were tough with that at the beginning. But I don't know. I guess I think in the long run, that was actually good for me just to be exposed to that much that quick because I almost felt a sense of empowerment walking by it every day and saying no. Like you just got to accept right off the bat, you're going to be exposed to it. It's everywhere now.
yeah, it really is everywhere now. Even when I quit, it wasn't in most of the convenience stores and gas stations, and now it seems like it's like everywhere and in every gas station and convenience store. And I live in a
Yes.
urban area as well, and yeah, it just seems like everywhere you go. It's the same with alcohol, though. It's everywhere, and just because we got sober doesn't mean the world's gonna stop doing what it's doing.
You're right. That is one thing that I did find interesting, though, is that I don't even have that many cravings for kratom anymore, but it did seem to intensify my alcohol cravings.
Quitting it.
Yep.
Yeah. Are you finding yourself having a hard time managing that, or
No, I think I've got a lot of, I've been through the recovery process before, and it's just, I know what to expect. And I've been pretty good about just waiting it out, and I'll be all right.
yeah, you seem like it and you sound like it. That's one of the things with recovery, right? It's never going to be great all the time, but it's going to be better than if you were using or drunk or taking kratom because at least you can deal with whatever's coming at you versus trying to deal with it and being fucked up out of your mind. We like to ask about music sometimes, and I haven't for a while. So, what kind of music are you into, or any music you want to plug?
I'm mostly into rap and metal. Oddly, I don't care for rap metal, but Nas, MF Doom are probably my favorite rappers. Mastodon and Protest the Hero as far as metal bands. And not many people know this outside of the Quitting Kratom music chat, but I'm also secretly a big fan of pop music. And Kesha is my absolute favorite.
All right, that's very eclectic taste. MF, all the way from MF Doom to Kesha, you don't really get that kind of versatility all that much. No, that's awesome. Let's see. If you could give someone like your top tip for quitting kratom, if they're listening and their story resonated or your story resonated with them, what would you tell them?
Finally, just dive into the support communities. Do your research, but don't be afraid to jump. And then lean on the community when you need support. Like, even if you don't participate a lot in the chats or whatever, sometimes just reading what others write can be so helpful. It might give you tips to handle what you're going through. Or if you're already through the worst of it, it maybe gives you perspective of how far you've come with things. But also, if you're like me, you're going to learn about a lot of new products that I'd probably seen them in stores before, but I didn't know what they were. It's an addict mind's kind of a crazy thing, how you can be in the
Yeah.
midst of withdrawal or just through the worst of it. But then you hear about something new like this 7-0 stuff, and your mind thinks, should I try that too? But
I know exactly what you're talking about.
yeah.
I would be lying to you if I said over the last year, talking to so many people now about those 7.0 products, that the thought hasn't crossed my mind. And even with as much time as I have now, I still think about, I wonder what that's like.
It's scary because you're going to
It's
be
very
underwhelmed
scary.
by it. You're going to be underwhelmed by it, but it's still just, I don't know what it is, but
At the same time, you also know as soon as you open that door, you're right back
exactly.
where you came from, and then you have to figure out how to get out of it again. And I don't know. I'm 43, and I don't know if I have any. I don't know how many more times I have getting out of it at this point.
I've experimented with enough things at this point in my life.
I feel the same way. I'm not trying to try anything else.
Exactly.
Anyway, let's see. Is there anything else that you might like to share with the audience that you feel would be helpful, or any maybe questions that you'd like to answer that I didn't ask you?
No, I can't really think of anything.
All right, that's all good, man. I think this is a good interview. It was great to hear about your experience with the kava-kratom drink. And thanks again for coming on and telling your story. I'm sure it's going to be helpful for the listeners. And it was really nice to meet you.
Oh, it's nice to meet you too, Jacob. Thank you so much for having me.
You too. Have a great night.